What's up, guys? So I was just cycling back home here with my bike, and we have bikes here in the Netherlands. So one of the main struggles of a young entrepreneur is that you are still living at home with your parents, and therefore you are dependent on your parents, and therefore they have some sort of power over you. So in the rare case that they don't support your efforts to become the best person you can humanly be, there's going to be a certain amount of difficulty in your getting there. So what I've been having since the past few years is that my parents didn't have the same beliefs about my business that I've had. I was always like, hey, I'm going to be a millionaire. And my father and my mother just came from a different generation. They came from a different time, and they just don't know the internet that well. And I think that a lot of parents are just not aligned with the mentalities that a young entrepreneur can have. So as a result of this, my parents have just almost commanded me to study since the past few years, and they were always like, hey, it's not going to work out, like, just go and study. Not even for the money, but also just like, you have to become social because you're just isolating yourself and this and that. And I was always like, dude, just wait for 1 or 2 years until I fucking make it. And now it's a couple years later, and I am almost making it. I am making $4,500 a month. I have a reasonable amount of money to spend, but at the same time, my parents don't really believe it. Yesterday, my father became really angry at me because he heard me calling with my partner, and he just gets really frustrated because he also works at home. And so there's some friction there. He hears me being on the phone all the time, speaking English, and I have quite a loud voice. So as a result, he became angry, and at the same time, he doesn't really even believe that I am succeeding. He doesn't even believe that I am making money. He's just saying like, hey, he's just telling that so he can exploit us for 5 more years. He's just manipulating us. So the moment he said it to my mother, I just decided to walk to the room, and I wanted to show my bank statement. I wanted to show like, hey, this is what I've made in the past 1 month. I am making money. But he didn't even want to see it, and I was very calm, but I just kind of insisted because he doesn't really believe in what I'm trying to achieve. And when I try to prove it, he doesn't want to look at it. I try to show him the numbers. I try to make him see like, hey, come on, like, I am really doing this. But it's almost like he doesn't want to see. And the reason that I think that he might not want to see it is because he's having cognitive dissonance. He cannot imagine in his reality that it would be possible for me sitting in my little room to make money on a monthly basis. He just doesn't believe it because he's from a different generation. But at the same time, it's also the character of the parents that you have. My parents happen to be not so open to newer information. That's just one of the big 5 character traits. And your parents might be very open to it, and your parents might be very supportive of it. Like, it's going to be different for everybody, but in this video I just want to talk to the guys who are like 16 to 20 years old, or 21, 22, whatever you may be, living at home, and you're having the struggle of your life because it's almost hell on earth on certain days of the week because you're getting into fights and your parents don't believe you. And I just want to say, like, there's nothing else that you can do than persist. And I can tell you, like, it is so fucking hard when you're getting threatened to be like kicked out of the house and this and that. And yesterday my father told me I can't go on holidays with him, cancel the plane ticket. There is so much on the line socially in order to get to where you want to be. And one of the largest challenges that I've had personally is that my whole family didn't believe in me. And when your parents don't believe in what you're trying to achieve, it does still affect you. Even though you have such a strong character and you build that confidence in yourself, you want your parents to believe in you. You want your parents to like support you. And when it doesn't happen, it can certainly have some negative mental impact on your mindset. So I just want to let you know I'm going through this right now and I'm succeeding still. You really need to have a very thick skin to get through this. I've seen multiple other people having fights with their parents, and as a result just starting a study. It's been happening to multiple of my friends who I try to encourage to, hey, like, just try this out. Like, you have 1 or 2 years to try it out. Getting into fights with their parents and just going with what they say because their parents have such a dominant influence on their life. And as a result, your parents, your family, your brothers decide, and your sisters decide who you are going to become. Is that really what you want? Because if I listen to my parents, to my family, to everybody who just told me like, you're not gonna do it, I would now be studying. I would be becoming a dentist or like a physician or whatever I may want to become. And I wouldn't be here where I'm right now, already making the money that a dentist in the Netherlands is making on average. So the largest struggle that I've had in my journey to becoming an entrepreneur is the fact that I had to constantly fight with my parents at home because they were hearing me talk and they were like, you're getting scammed by some guru who thinks he's gonna, just get your money and then run away. That's literally what they think. And I'm not trying to discredit my parents in this video, not at all, because I just know that this is the programming that they have been raised with. They come from a different generation and they just have a different set of beliefs, because the possibilities that we have right now, let me just wait for a car. That's a beautiful car, by the way. The possibilities that we have right now, we did not have 50 years ago or 30 years ago. So I am not trying to say like, my parents are shit. They want the best for me and they want me to succeed, but they just don't think that I'm going to succeed in this way. And because I've not been listening to my parents for a couple of years, the bond that we have with each other is completely ruined. Not with my mother, because a mother gives unconditional love, but a father, his love is conditional. And in my father's case, he just sees me as arrogant, egocentric, narcissistic, all of the negative traits, stubborn, because I never listen to him, and he just thinks that I'll see in a couple of years that I've made a big mistake. And it just fucking sucks, dude. So as a result of the disagreement and the fact that we're both working at home, so my father is really annoyed by me speaking on the phone in English. And I'm like, come on, dude, like, is it that annoying? But yeah, it probably is, because he already hates what I'm doing. But he wants me to move the fuck out, get my own place. But I really cannot afford that yet, because here in the Netherlands there is not a lot of space. I'm already paying $1,000 a month for my carnivore diet, eating 3 pounds of meat a day. And in order for me to be able to move out, I would have to go to another country, which is what I want to do because it's cheaper anyway. But in order for me to be able to move out, I need to first have that driver's license, which I'm currently working on getting. But yeah, because there is so much pressure and tension and drama at home, I am super fucking driven to work as hard as I possibly can in order to move out as quickly as possible. Because I'm using the negative energy as fuel, and I've done so from the beginning. And that negativity, if you use it well and you don't get succumbed by it, it's going to be fuel for you, and it's going to build character. And character is one of the main things that's going to decide whether or not you're going to be a successful person in life, because your character decides how you respond to the situations that come to you. And I'm talking about the negative, shitty situations. Are you going to listen to your parents who are telling you that you're not going to be successful? Or are you just going to tell your whole family like, fuck you, I'm going to do my own thing? That really takes character. And I haven't seen a lot of people doing that, going completely against the grain, because it's fucking rare. Like, I don't know anybody who's doing the same thing as me, other than my friend who I have encouraged and supported to do the same. So it's incredibly rare for people to start their own business, and let alone succeed in it. And the reason is there are so many limiting factors in people's life, mentally and physically and time-wise, that make it hard for this person to succeed. Like, first you have to be mentally in the right space, and that has a lot to do with the surroundings that you surround yourself with. So if all of your friends and your family tell you that it's impossible to start your own business, or it's just you aren't smart enough, you're not better than them, you just ain't got what it takes, then you're very likely to believe that. But if you're like me and you spend more time with online people like Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, I started out with those gurus at the beginning as well, then you're going to be able to overcome those mental limitations and realize that you have no limitations. Then the second fight is actually trying to make it work. You have to do a shit ton of research. If you don't have a physical network around you of people who already know what they're doing, then it means that you have to digitally network, and that you have to look for information, courses. And to be honest, it's really hard to stick everything together, because there's so many shitty courses out there, And it also just takes some personal guidance. You have so many questions that need to be answered. Just see it as like when you go to university for a couple of years, you have a shit ton of books, you have the right information, and you have a couple of professors to ask the questions that just help you solve that extra 10% of the puzzle. So this might take a few years before you even get a basic understanding of operations, marketing, sales, copywriting, all of that stuff. For a lot of people, they have to learn how to do the building side of the business, right? They have to learn how do I generate leads, how do I run ads, make good offers. But the building skill set is completely different than the sales skill set. So for a lot of people who are learning with an agency model to do ads and get a great software and a great solution for a business owner, they get really good at one thing, but then secondarily they don't know how to sell their own product. So for most people, that's a pitfall. They are either very good at sales or they are good at running ads and making a great product, but rarely do they have both, because the skill sets both just take a lot of time to develop. And therefore having a partner with you who knows how to sell or knows how to build a business is going to help you scale to the $50,000 a month way quicker than if you're a beginner 18 or 20 years old and you're trying to do everything by yourself. It's just going to take a couple of years, which is the struggle, because if you are living at home, then you very often don't have a couple of years. Because if you have a couple of parents who don't believe in what you're trying to achieve, you're just going to have a lot of friction and a lot of tension at home. And at a certain point, they are just going to tell you and manipulate you that either you go to school or you're going to be kicked the fuck out. So in order for you to get ahead in your business, you have to completely ignore what your parents want. So when you make the decision to choose for yourself, to try your business out for a couple of years, and you don't choose to just go with what your parents want, it might be the best solution that you have ever made, but it might also be the worst, because you might actually fail. Yes, guys, it is fucking true. There is something called natural selection. There is a thing called that 50% of businesses fail within the first couple of years. That you start a business doesn't mean that you're going to succeed. It's actually quite tough. And therefore, you know, your parents have quite a good point, because there's a really reasonable chance that you're not going to succeed. So when you fail your business and it takes you a couple of years, then they are going to be proven to be right in the end anyway. So it's not like my parents are completely crazy, because there's just a super high chance of you not being successful, at least not in the first few years. For some people it takes 5 years, for some people it takes 10 years of persisting and learning everything that it takes to make money. And in the case that you are able to persevere, it is the best decision that you're going to make in your entire life. But if you don't have that capacity, because you're just gonna get kicked out, or you're gonna just have a certain deadline that is related to your personal situation, you're just going to be fucked. So I've just realized that I am very fucking lucky to be 20 years old and I'm already so far ahead, because only a couple of years later I might have to already live on my own and I have to pay for everything, and I might have to work 30 or 40 hours a week in order to pay for that, because everything is expensive. And when you don't have time to work on your business, it's only going to take longer. So getting rich is really not that easy, and not everyone is going to get rich. It's just the way it is. I do sincerely believe that anyone can get rich, but you have to be willing to be in it for the decade and to just close your eyes for the next 10 years, because you're going to go through so much suffering. Because you might try something out for 3 or 4 or 5 years, living at your home from 17 to 22, and it might still not have worked out. Like, that's fucking life. You might have been very unlucky, and it is what it is. Now after 5 years or 3 years that you have your deadline and you need to live on yourself because you're 22 years old or whatever it may be, it is up to you to decide to just, you know, give up, give in, and to start studying, going into debt, and to then have to pay the $100,000 or how much that you might have in the next decades to come. But for the real winners, for the real G's, they will just fucking continue, because they know that they have so much greatness in them, they have so much potential in them, that they would even try it for 2 decades, because anything is better than to have to work for a boss in a job making only like $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Because you have like 30, 40 years of working ahead of you in your life, and you might as well fucking try anything out in order to just become rich during that time period. So if you really want to get rich, be in it for the decade, set the right expectations for yourself and assume that it's going to take 5, 10, 15 or 20 years, how long it may be, before you're financially free. And there's a lot of luck involved here, and there's so many factors that come into play, like your network, access to information, your health, the amount of time that you have, your ability to manage yourself, to know your strengths and weaknesses, to know how you perform well. But if you make the decision to suffer and you make the commitment to work for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, how long it may take to become a successful internet entrepreneur, then I assure you, you're going to be better 15 years ahead from now than anyone who would just go into their average job and be comfortable that way. By the way, there are some cows here. I want to drink some milk now. There's raw milk today. It's Friday. I'm gonna get some milk at the farmer because at Friday he has some raw milk, which is way healthier than pasteurized milk. But yeah, I'd like to say that they are cute and they are my friends, but I eat them every day. So there's some mixed feelings here because I'm a carnivore. But they are some fucking beautiful animals. Like, I think as a human species, we should spend more time with animals. I don't think it's natural that we only spend time with the same species, because we can also connect to other species like cows, for example, and horses. That would add a lot more variation to our animal life and our animal kingdom. But yeah, just know that the biggest mistake you can make is to have the expectation that you'll become rich in a few years, or you'll become free from the matrix in a couple of years, because it might take 5 or 10 or 15 years. The second biggest mistake is to give in and to give up because it's taking more than you expected it to take. So you expected it to take 5 years, but it might take 10. Or you expected it to take 1 or 2 years, because most people are so weak they already give up within the first or second year of trying. It's insane. But if you can just commit for that period of time, and you can just decide to become the best person you can ever be and just hold yourself accountable. And you might feel overwhelmed because you might be like 25 years or 30 or 35, and you might have a full-time job, so you only have this many hours per week. Then I would just highly recommend you to try and fill up those hours in a week with the work that you're trying to do to become free of your job. And I know that's hard. I'm not speaking from experience here, because I only work 3 days a week. I didn't work 5 days a week. And I know that's going to be the toughest fucking spot to be in, especially if you have a wife and kids. I would almost say, this is not a good mindset thing to say, but I would almost say that the moment you have a full-time job, you have a wife and kids, then you're almost game over. Because now you cannot just risk everything. You cannot just say like, hey, I'm going to suffer for the next 10 years because your kids are going to suffer with you, which is not acceptable. So if you're like 20 years old, stay away from having a girlfriend. I know that it's fun, but you know, that 1 or 2 days a week, that's just gonna be wasted on, I mean, it's not gonna be wasted, but if you really want to get free from the matrix, then, you know, women are just gonna take away from your ambition and your energy and your time that you can spend on becoming rich. So if you're already studying and you don't have a lot of time, and even if you're already working on your business full-time, forget a woman. Focus on yourself, focus on getting smarter, focus on getting stronger, and focus on making money. Because once you're making money, like, I'm gonna tell you guys, like, this is some private shit here, but I am still a virgin. I'm 20 years old and I've never had sex. But that's because the past 3 years, I have committed to not really spending any time on fucking women in general, because I know that the moment I become successful, I get to go to any place that I want. I get to eat any food that I want to eat. I'll be able to afford anything that I want to afford. So, like, women are not going to be a problem. I can procrastinate on having sex for a couple of years, and the return of that investment is that I'll have a shit more money. If you're having a hard time, if you're having all the struggles that I've had, and you have so much uncertainty, why would you waste your time on some fucking chick that you just want to bank because you're horny? Like, you can use that sexual energy to get through the adversity that you're going through right now, and a couple of years later you will thank yourself because you will actually have made that goal, very likely. And the moment that all of the girls come to you and they're like, oh, you're making money and you're so attractive because women are partially attracted to money because it just shows that you have a strong character and that you have resources, and you probably also are able to provide a great experience for them because you can go to places. But I have come to the realization this week that because I don't date women, I haven't had sex, and I also don't masturbate, so I'm almost like a celibate. I've come to the realization that mentally I am not at all dependent on women in any way, shape, or form for my happiness. So what happens in a couple of years, or maybe already next year, depending on how successful I am at a point, is that there is 0% neediness in my entire body and in my entire being. And the only thing that I have is intrinsic value and happiness with myself. And women feel this because they just feel that so many men are intrinsically needy, that they are dependent on the woman to make them feel good. But I can just, look at a woman, she might be cute, and I'll just say like, hey, either you want me or you don't. Like, I'm good anyway. So as a result, because I haven't had any woman in my life for the past few years since I'm 17, I really don't give a fuck about the outcome when talking to a girl. Because if she has a positive response, then great. But if not, like if she rejects me, I have so much intrinsic value and confidence at this point that I couldn't give a fuck less about whether or not she rejects or whether or not she likes me, which is power. Because the moment you don't care is the moment you get power in the negotiation. And it's not even a negotiation, it's just for yourself that you start to see that there's more valuable things than just women. Because what I believe is that most guys of my age, I'm 20 years old, cannot really do without sex or watching porn and masturbating, and they really are just chasing women, and that's like the highest reward that they have. Meanwhile, for me myself, the highest reward that I have is progressing in my business, becoming a better and stronger person, becoming smarter, becoming more capable, getting a better network, becoming richer, so that when I talk to a woman, I am really independent of the outcome with her, because she doesn't really make me any more or less happy, unless it's like a really good connection, of course, unless there's some real love out there. But I'm talking about the more shadow conversations. And the reason I can do that is because I've gone for extended periods of time without masturbation and without sex. I have never had sex in my life. So I can easily do without sex for another couple of years. I don't really care. And I think that's really a strength and a power, because as a young man, you really need to search for a purpose, who you are as a man and your ambitions. And women kind of take that away, can take that away in a sense if you're only chasing pleasure and partying, all that stuff, which is fun, but it certainly makes you more dependent on it. So in conclusion, there are two ways to make yourself independent from the outcome of the conversation you have with any woman. And the reason you need to be independent of it is because you're going to show that you're less needy, which is in turn going to make her like you more, because you're showing that you're a person of high values. So there has to be value in your life in either one of the two ways, which is number one, you have to be a high value person yourself. You need to have valuable activities going on in your life that are more important than her. Because then when you're talking to her and you don't really care, it just shows that you have more important stuff going on in your life, which is your business, getting stronger and getting smarter. And the number two way that you have value in your life can be, of course, in a way of having a lot of options and having an abundance in women, because you also communicate that to every woman you talk to in a way that you talk to her. So when you become a high value person, when you actually become a character, because there's a lot of guys making a lot of money but who are terrible with women, or are just completely dependent on the attention of women and the sex because they can't do without, which is pathetic. But if you actually become a high value guy, you actually become a character, you actually have some thick skin, some mental callus, like a David Goggins, then women start recognizing it, women start, wanting to be around you, and you start getting more abundant in women. You start communicating that to every woman you talk to, because you don't give a fuck. And because you don't give a fuck, they give a fuck. That's the way it works, And as a result, you have as many options as you want, and that's really up to you what you're gonna do with that. So the reason I'm saying this is because if you're 20 years old and you're still living at your home and you are working on your business and you have a sort of deadline because your parents want you to study, or you're not gotta move out in a couple of years because that's just how it goes, well, forget the chicks and focus on your business. Use the sexual energy to transmute it into productivity and focus. And then once you become successful, you know, it's all going to come to you because that's just how it works. So don't chase women at 20, focus on yourself. And once you become successful a couple of years later, they're going to come towards you and you already have what it takes in order to live the life that you want. So it's going to be okay.